Thank you for hanging tight for this long in the day. Promise it's gonna be exciting. So I'm Sarah Moorhead. I'm not Craig Nelson today. And I'm the Executive Director of Thurston Conservation District. I am joined by the most lovely and multi-talented Zora. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, Zora Oppenheimer, District Manager at Clark
Can't hear you,
CD.
Zora.
Oh. You can't hear me? I'm off mute. Test. Test,
We
test.
can hear you on the
All right,
line,
people online
Zora.
can hear you, Zora, but no one in the room can. So that's on our end. Okay. So we have an hour. While we're doing that, Zora, can we come back to your introduction, and maybe since you guys can hear us, what we'd like to do is do some introductions of people in the room. And Zora and I would really like to hear why you guys are here, why you guys have hung out until 4 o'clock for this riveting presentation that we have prepared for you today about districts conquering the world or community or something. So let us know what you're most interested in, and hopefully we'll cover that later. We'll have time for lots of questions. So if we can start with folks in the room, because you guys can hear us, and then we'll go back to the Zoom, that would be great. We'll start with you, if that's okay.
Sure. My name is Weston Kane. I'm the district manager of Rock Lake Conservation District of St. John. I'm here just to see how we can expand what the district offers.
Great, you are in the right place. Miss Queen of Expansion herself.
Just trying to keep us in the room. No, I am here because, yes, Palouse Conservation District. I'm Jennifer Bois. I'm the director of Palouse Conservation District. We have gone through some expansion in the past decade, and I would love to hear, what other people are doing to not only expand their districts, but expand their services and meet community needs.
I'm Alex Case Cohen. I manage the Pondering Conservation District. I have been a one-woman show, but I'm no longer a one-woman show, and hope to further be less of a one-woman show through expansion. So,
Jerry Hendrickson of Fulton County Board Member. I'm a treasurer of the board.
We're gonna talk a lot about money.
Good.
Perfect place.
Don't worry about mine.
Right. How it could be yours too.
Christina Hale from the Women Conservation District from the learn.
Hello, neighbor.
I'm Pauline Hagan. I'm from Stevens County, and I'm associate supervisor, and I'm wet behind the ears. So I'm gonna get started.
I like it.
Dawn McKeon with the Walking Conservation District, and it's next on the list of the agenda.
Can you guys speak up over
Dead
in that
fast,
corner?
dedication.
It's been showing on the central and district habitat conservation, but of course we're looking at the Hi, Alyssa Carlson, South Central Regional Manager of the Commission. I'm here to listen and learn.
Ryan Williams, Cascadia, executive director there. I just started district recently as a manager about a year or so now. And have a little bit of expansion and one additional person, and but I could see some additional opportunities in the future. So on the here.
Great. Thanks for coming.
Hey, can you guys hear us?
Laura Meyer, I am the community.
I can't hear us.
For the Conservation Commission until Thursday. And I'm here because when I'm leaving my current position in a couple days, I am the big supporter of conservation district domination, and I'm running.
I'm Shambo, the district manager for the commission, and I just want to support you all in your domination of the world and especially the communication.
I'm liking this theme here. T-shirts and our food chart.
And I'm here. Share our district.
I did did not set them up to.
Yeah. I think tomorrow also Thursday, like it's for Eric, learn something new. So, thanks for having me. My name is Nora. I also work for Thursday.
We'll speed up.
District and I'm the communications manager and I've learned a lot from there, but. So it's all my name is Sophia. And I'm kind of business, District 10, so I'm off here. We're off here at school.
And I'm Susan Shelton, I'm the Finance and Administration Manager for Thurston Conservation District. And I just love to hear how our Sarah articulates our vision and our future. And so looking forward to hearing how she.
You are as great. Right.
Yeah.
Well, integral part of our storytelling is right there.
I'm Judy Minnick from Bonneville Conservation District. I did the admin but last year with our new manager, and so I learned the position and trained her a lot this past year, and she was not able to be here today, but literally just started before meeting 8 minutes ago. And we are working heavily on trying to expand it and what it takes to do that.
Awesome.
I'm Hillary. I'm the communications and outreach coordinator for Spokane CD, and I'm here because I love hearing about all the new things that districts are implementing on their own, and also for district publishing.
Made a lot for you. Progress, recurring things.
Hi, I'm Mike Baden. I'm with the Conservation Commission. I'm the North Central and Northeast Regional Manager, and we get to work with districts of all sizes and in all phases of expansion. So it's just good to hear what folks are doing and be able to share ideas. And, you know, from experience, we know that districts of all sizes can still know.
Perfect. Incap to our day.
Hi, my name is Ryan Bay. I work for the State Association. And it feels like every third conversation I have is about just capacity and programming and being able to accommodate their wants with the budget. And so sustainable funding, increasing capacity, and seeing how 2 of the 45 have done it, probably might give ideas to the other 43.
That is the hope, but my goodness, the bar has risen. We'll see, Zora, let's see if your mic's working in the room, if our speaker's working.
I don't think it is.
That would be a no.
You want me to go running it?
Oh, try again.
Can you hear me now?
Hey.
Okay.
And
I was trying to say before, you guys couldn't hear, I basically couldn't hear anybody on that last side of the room. So it's fine, don't go through it again, but just if I like, I don't know, just anyway.
it's okay, they were all from Thurston.
Okay.
It's fine.
I saw the 2 Ryans and I saw Laura, and that's kind of all I got. Zora Oppenheimer, District Manager at Clark Conservation District. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Is that all I'm supposed to say? Just introduce myself?
Quick introduction, and then if we can introduce the other folks on the phone or on the Zoom, sorry, wrong generation. As well, and hear a little bit about what they're interested in getting out of our presentation today. Can we switch the view again? Because I can't see. I'm sorry.
Do you want me to call on people or?
Yes,
Okay.
that would be great. Thank you, Zora.
Yeah. I'm just gonna go alphabetical. Anne.
Hi, I'm Ann Gross with Underwood Conservation District, and I'm the financial manager there. And I've been there 100 years, and there's been so many changes in my lifetime there that it's just exciting to hear that there's still more to do and more ways to improve and advance. So I do hear snippets of improvements from Zora because we work a bit with her. So I just wanted to see what else she's got up her sleeve and also what Sarah has. So I'm just interested to hear what you're all doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne.
my advice to you is to write everything in your brain down, write it all down. Becky. Becky Drenner.
Mute. There we go. Unmuted. I'm Becky Drenner. I'm the finance director at the Okanagan Conservation District. I've been there for 4 years, and district life is always about change. And so we're in a real positive growth pattern right now. And so I'm just here to glean whatever info I can.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bengt. 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 Let's see, I can't unmute you. Let's go on to Emily. Emily? Joe?
I am here. I am Joe. I guess
Hi,
I am
Joe.
accounting. I'm an accounting technician over at Clark CD with Zora. I am here just to I've just recently started, so I'm kind of just getting a grasp of everything at the moment.
Thank you, Joe. Meredith?
Hi, everyone. I'm Meredith Stillwell. I'm the Grant and Fiscal Administrator for Clark CD. I am here to support Zora and kind of listen into the conversation and learn from everyone else's experiences with their growth and listen to the discussion. And looking forward to it.
Thank you. Tracy?
Hi, everybody. I'm Tracy Keir. I'm the office manager and financial specialist for Jefferson County Conservation District. I've been in this position for about 10 years now. And yeah, we have grown a lot over the last 10 years, even though we are still very much a small conservation district. So just looking forward to what everyone has to say today. And I appreciate everyone for what they've done in creating this session for us today.
Thank you. Valerie?
I am Valerie Hampton with Cascadia Conservation District. I'm the financial coordinator. I've been with the district 26 years, and I'm here to try to keep up with whatever Ryan's up to.
That one.
Both of you, to be honest.
And Susie?
I am Susie Snyder from the Whatcom County Conservation District. I serve as the vice chair in a state appointed position, and I'm just interested in learning as much as I can about what's changing. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Thank you.
Emily or BENGT? Do either of you want to unmute?
Emily's having some technical difficulties and she doesn't have access to her mic right now.
That's okay. If you guys want to pop anything into chat, I think we can do that. Did we miss anyone on the Zoom?
I saw Anna and I saw Taylor, but.
I don't think so.
So why do we do these really long, lengthy introductions? You're all wondering. I know you are. This is your 5th time. No. One, it definitely helps us see if there's focal points or things that you're interested in. 2, we all know that districts come in really different shapes and sizes, right? And Zora and I are really good examples of very different sizes, very different populations, and also very different funding structures. And we're hoping to bring those stories of what we've done and how we've done it, because Zora's story is going to resonate with some of you, but not with others. And maybe mine will resonate with some of you, but not with others. And so we can see who's in the room. We're hoping that at the end of this too, because there's such a wealth of knowledge that's already in this room, that we can have a little Q&A discussion and sharing, because so many of you have also done a lot of expansion and built. So we're 2 case studies out of 45. And so we want to see who are our neighbors that are also looking for this, because Zora's brilliant idea is how can we turn this conversation into a continued conversation where we can cross-pollinate about district expansion, leveraging resources, working across borders, collaborating on funding development to really elevate all of our boats. Did I paraphrase you well, Zora?
I love it when you paraphrase me, Sarah. It makes me sound so smart.
Well, perfect. With that, Zora, do you want to go first with sharing, telling your story and sharing your piece, and I will take up the end.
I can do that. So I will kind of warn everybody, just a little bit that some of this was done a little bit last minute. So as I've heard some of your kind of comments, I hope that I hit the mark on this. We'll see. If not, you can always ask me. Let's see, I'm gonna swap. There we go. All right. Now I'm going to minimize a bunch of stuff. Okay. Is this the screen that you see? Okay.
We're seeing your presentation and your next slide.
Okay. Oh,
Presenter mode on this side.
well, that's not what I want.
I don't know how to do it either. We have like 3 laptops going on this side.
How about now?
We're just seeing you.
Now you're just seeing me.
We're seeing your desktop.
What do you
And
see?
Presenter mode. Can't.
Hold on, let me try one more.
Joe says try putting it in. Oh, there you go.
Got it.
You got it.
Okay. Is this blocking? Can you see this?
We're
No,
seeing
okay.
it clearly.
Okay. All right, here we go. So I'm going to tell you just a little bit about our story at Clark CD, how we began our transition from kind of the more old school traditional district into a new and improving district. So we were a sort of stable but small district. For decades, we were small. We were small by any district standards, but we were really small when compared to other districts of similar demographics. So Clark County, we're very rapidly urbanizing. We're extremely agricultural, and we're kind of a sleeper. We regularly make those fastest growing city lists. A city in our county had the highest population change of any city in the state, with a 143% increase for the last 10 years. Vancouver is in the top 5 of total increase in population. Clark County has the 2nd highest population density, just behind King County. That's a surprising one for a lot of people. And we also have the 3rd highest number of farms and the highest farm density down in Clark County. And with all of that, our district averaged 3 to 4 employees. So not the smallest, but certainly not the biggest. And because of the high population that we have, we were basically always overstretched and under-resourced. In 2017, 2018, we kind of reached a breaking point. We tried to get rates and charges for the 4th and then 5th time, unsuccessfully. And at that point, our longtime district manager moved on to another position. Our long-term engineering technician retired. And at that point, we only had 3 staff. So I was the only one left standing. We did not have enough money to recruit a replacement manager who had experience. And so I became the interim district manager kind of by default. So our district really had nowhere to go but up, either in flames or up. We hired 2 new staff with kind of a mishmash of grant funds. And we were also part of this new partnership effort organized by Department of Ecology to develop a TMDL alternative in the East Fork Lewis River. So I worked really hard to make Clark CD the center of that partnership. I was able to leverage my lack of experience to basically say, I need to prove myself to my board. And I would like to prove myself by running this sort of, not the East Fork Lewis River partnership, but some of the efforts that came out of that. And it worked. I was able to convince the partners in the grant or the partners in the program. And so out of that, we applied for some grants. We applied for an ecology grant, which in 2019, which we did not get. We applied for an RCPP grant also in 2019, which we ended up getting. We got an NACD technical assistance grant for 2020. We got our RCPP grant. We applied again for ecology, the new kind of revamped application, and ended up getting that one. And we also got some local funding as well. So it was a little bit of a snowball effect. We developed a really strong partnership and a strong project. But it was really about the partnerships. That was what allowed us to apply for all these grants and use matched funds from other agencies that we were working with. Some of the benchmarks in our expansion process, for me, I started my position with essentially no employees. I basically had one person who retired as a planned retirement. In March of 2020, we left the office for COVID with 3 staff members. And we now have 8 full-time staff and 2 interns. 5 of the 8 staff have been with us less than a year. We have a really, really green staff. That is a lot of new staff who don't have the kind of understanding of infrastructure and processes, partly because when you bring on new staff with shiny new money, it really highlights what issues there are in your processes, because you had existing staff that maybe were there for a long time and they just sort of knew how to do things. One of the other little benchmarks for me that I wanted to mention was back in February, we were looking at reorganizing our org chart, basically the structure of our district. And one of my amazing staff, Meredith, built out some options. And I looked at it and I remembered, oh, I put something together last year. And I looked and it was just over a year prior. I had developed 3 org charts. One was for in the next few months, we were going to hire a set of people. So it was then. One was for in the next couple of years. And one was like pie in the sky. This is sort of my my distant vision of the future. And when I compared my distant vision of the future to the one that Meredith had made for current, or not for current, but for, in the next couple months, basically, they were 1 staff person apart. So this might not fully translate, but my vision of my future district was a staff of roughly 10 people. Maybe one of them would be an intern. And this draft org chart was 9, and one of them was an intern. So that's pretty close. I knew that I didn't want to grow too fast. I had talked to other managers about growing too big too quickly and the impacts that would make on a district. And so I've been really cognizant of that. We actually, 3 of our staff we have onboarded in the last month or so. And it's good. It's all really good, but we're done for a bit. Like that's a lot of people to bring on. 10 seemed like a reasonable size, and we're pretty darn close to that. I'm flying through this. I'm sorry, guys. I know we're time limited. My top 3 or 5 tips for district expansion. Every expansion is going to be different. It's really going to be so dependent on what your circumstances are. And there definitely is some luck involved, or kismet, maybe not luck, but just sort of, what ends up shaking out, what grant opportunities happen to be available. But my kind of top tips are, you have to have incredible staff. Staff will make or break your success. And as a wise district manager once told me, hire slowly, fire quickly. And Indurus may have some things to say about that, but the fact is that it's true. It's really amazing to me how one person can change the tone of that environment that you cultivate in your district. And that's a good thing and a bad thing. It can go either way. For us, partnerships, that was how we grew. We have been a district with an average budget for the last 20 years of $430,000 a year. It's pretty steady. I actually, for this presentation, looked through and yeah, that's pretty steady. There's one year we had a really big project, but basically it's around the $430,000 mark. Last year it was $850,000, and this year we expect it to be $1.2 million. And that happened because of partnerships. Like, we applied for grants, but the only reason we were able to apply for the grants of the size that allowed us to grow to that level was because we said to people, we are in need of help, and we weren't afraid to, I don't know, put ourselves out there. But it takes a lot of work. It took a lot of work. It took a huge amount of work. Make your district relevant and critically important to accessing those landowners. We are the people who landowners trust. And by always making clear that you can work with all these agencies, but the landowners are going to trust you. So people need to bring you on board. Ask smart people stupid questions. That is kind of my mantra. I can't tell you the number of times that I have thought I was asking the world's dumbest question, and people have come up to me later and appreciated that. And form a team of smart people that you ask dumb questions to. Your mentors that you go to. Sarah is one of those people for me. There's others of you in that room, and I'm really disappointed that I'm not there, but Sarah is so compassionate and warm. I would always feel bad about asking her stuff, but then I would talk to her and she would just make me feel like why didn't you call me sooner? Whoopsies. You can feel, I wrote a little thing for you, Sarah. You can feel Sarah's warmth and desire to make each and every person around her feel appreciated. But she's not just warm and compassionate. She has crystal clear values and communication, and is so incredibly eloquent. I remember thinking very early in my new job as an interim district manager, I want to be like Sarah. And here we are, giving a presentation together on growing our districts in 2 very different ways. I'm very proud of us. Don't reinvent the wheel. Steal from the rest of us. Don't be afraid to steal from us. I mean, ask, but steal. There's no reason that we should all be doing the same thing over and over again, or, you know, redoing things. And then trust your gut. If I had trusted my gut through this process, and I'm going to keep learning that, things would have gone better for me quicker. I'm already over time because I'm at 14 minutes, sorry. Okay, I have 2 more slides and then I'm done. This Dunning-Kruger effect, I find this really helpful. It describes, I'm gonna read the definition, it describes a cognitive bias where people with low ability in a task overestimate their ability to perform that task. Additionally, knowledge gaps prevent the person from seeing their mistakes. So if you think you know everything, you don't know what you're doing, and you're living at the peak of Mount Stupid. And if you think you know nothing, you're living in the valley of despair. And if you're me or with me, you are slowly crawling up the slope of enlightenment. But I really like this graph because it shows you when you are sitting there and you feel like I'm so like, you know, I don't get this, I'm dumb, this is so frustrating, whatever those feelings are, that is you learning. That's you growing on this confidence level. Because if you do think you know everything, then congratulations, you're right there. Anyways, I visit this with some regularity. It makes me feel better. And then for opportunities for our districts to grow, I have kind of a soapbox, which I will shorten, but essentially in our process of expanding and growing, I have been so frustrated that every step along the way I had to figure out whether it was I knew I had to learn something, or I had to figure out what needed to be learned and then give that to somebody else. And there's a lot of things that you don't know. You don't know there's a consultant that'll do this, or I don't know that you have to do this. And I'm continually kind of amazed that there isn't more collaboration between our districts or on behalf of our districts. I think that we need to expand our shared cluster or statewide resources. Like hearing Joe's Indurus presentation or the state auditor's presentation, I hear those and I just think, oh my gosh, that is so much stuff that none of us have time for. Or, you know, maybe we have time to do it a little bit, but not all the way. If we had a statewide HR person, a statewide tech support person, a statewide attorney that we could contract with, or a Smartsheet expert, like imagine how much more efficient we could all be if there weren't 45 of us doing, you know, the same thing 45 different times. Obviously, we're all different. We can't all do things exactly the same way. But I feel like there is so much opportunity for us all to increase our efficiency by sharing more resources. That's what I got. Thanks.
So believe it or not, Zora and I did not see each other's presentations before this very moment. But you are gonna see some very similar themes in our presentation, so. I must be
Well,
sure.
I finished mine 5 minutes before 4 o'clock, so.
I only beat you by 2 hours, okay. I'm still Sarah Moorhead. This is our Phoenix Rising story of Thurston CD. Similarly to what Zora mentioned, we crashed and burned pretty big. Most of you were here for that. And so our story of expansion is really our story of our rebuild from the ground up, literally, or maybe subterranean at that point, I don't know. So a little more about me. I've been with our district for over 10 years in a variety of different capacities. Much like Zora, I became interim district manager in July of 2017. And I stayed very comfortable in that interim seat for a little over 2 years. And then finally was anointed with the proper title, dropped the interim, and I've been there ever since. My strengths that I bring to the table are definitely strength in communications and relationship building, strategic planning, big picture, organizational development, read weaknesses, not very technical, steep financial learning curve, not detail oriented. All the things that Zora is very, very good at. That's important for you to know for this. This very lovely artistically drawn map of Thurston County, which yes, it is a zoning map. I'm so sorry I'm making you look at this. But I want you to see how diversified our county is in terms of land use types in the small space. We're trying to give a flavor and a feel of some of the things that we're dealing with, so you can learn about how our story of growth leads into that. We are split in half. Puget Sound is in the top, it's a little inlet fingerlings up there. What most people don't realize is that half of our county is actually in the Chehalis Basin watershed. So we have different partnerships, different resources, different priorities, different funding pools, thankfully, in both of those that we plug and play. Those are important to our story. We are a rates and charges district. We did have an assessment back when that was cool. We did lose rates and charges for a hot minute. You'll hear about that in a minute, and got back. We are 6th on the list in terms of population size. That's a decent amount, right? But we are the 8th smallest county in the state. Lots of people, small geography. I actually did the math, and you can fit almost 7.5 of us in Okanagan. So you can tell the other Craig Nelson that. So our very mixed use, highly diversified landscape, lots of ecosystem diversity, lots of ag diversity, lots of people rapidly urbanizing, much like Zora, right along the I-5 corridor, has tons of pressure on resources, lots of pressure to respond, and lots of people to serve, lots of small acreage. One of the things that we continue to struggle with that we'll talk about throughout this presentation is the more people learning about your services and asking for your services doesn't always translate into more money to help them, right? Or more project dollars to put on the ground. As our population has done this, you'll see my funding graph in here in a little bit. It hasn't followed suit. So that's been our biggest struggle in terms of growth, is being able to meet that community demand and try and build, right? Yay, grant application windows, 18 months to 2 years, maybe we'll get it, has been a challenge. So we can go to the next slide. Susan, I made a budget graph. Thank you. It all came from her. So this is a little bit of our story. I gave you a 10-year snapshot here so you can really see the devastating trend in the middle. You see that really steep decline. That's when our district sort of had a shakedown, right? We, gosh, by 2018, we lost half of our staff. We had 12, we were down to 6. And that was overnight, right? That line is very steep. Between 2017 and 2018, we lost half of our staff, and we lost a third of our organizational budget, which was about $550,000. So we were, sitting around 1.5 at that point. Overnight, we had to figure out, how do we right the ship? How do we stay afloat? How do we still have $1.5 million worth of work to do that we've lined up with a lot less money and definitely a lot less staff? You'll see, thankfully, that trend line has actually gone back up. So you're going to hear that story of our growth today. We have over 2.5 times our budget. We're sitting around $2.6 million. We've more than doubled our staff. We're now at 16. Maybe have our own in-house engineer, which is really an exciting thing that we've never done before. And we've got an intern restoration crew and all kinds of other things that we could not imagine back in 2018. That visioning process, that target, that goal is always moving, right? You have these long-term plans and how to get there, and it's those baby steps, right? What can I do in the next year? What can I do in the next month? What can I do in this short period of time to get to just that next level before we think about this process again? So you're going to hear about how that circular process of thought about how we've grown since then. So yes, so our first original goal, right, was just to get back to normal, just to reach status quo. Oops, for
Sorry,
last one.
advance.
That's okay. Foreshadowing. Was just to reach status quo, just to stabilize, just to recover. Once we did that, we set our next goal, right? It wasn't out of the gate to be like superhuman, powerful mega district. It was like, let's just make sure we keep the doors open and the lights on. Okay, got that done. We were able then to start looking at spreading our wings, growing programs, increasing staff. With that piece, then we got to look and say, how can we start to give back to all of the people that helped us limp along for all of those years that we were having trouble? How can we give back to our community, to our partners? And now we're at that point where we've done some of that, and we're looking forward at how can we be an anchor in our community, right? A real solid long-term pillar where we can fill gaps and really bring unique opportunities with the different structure that districts are. We have different abilities than pretty much anybody else, right? How can we leverage that to provide something unique and special that no one else can? Okay, now we can go forward. So know your strengths, right? You heard mine right off the bat. I know exactly what I'm good at, which means I know exactly what I'm not great at. Step number one at PCD was being very self-aware. I'm in this leadership role. I'm here to hire staff. I need to figure out what I can do well and do that. More importantly, I need to figure out what I cannot do well and find somebody who's really good at that and bring them on. So welcome, third row table. Thank you very much for being here today. We found those humans. I mean, that was top of Zora's list. She's spot on. Find incredible humans that can do this work and do whatever you can to keep them. No.
Oh, sorry.
Watch it. One of the things that I also had to look at as we were growing, and my goodness, I could never have walked in Zora's shoes. She's a powerhouse, an amazing woman. This was a one human district show and built up to the capacity that she's at, which is remarkable in and of itself. Is look at where are those pieces. So one of the things we did is figure out we need more money. We need to recover financially from this. We need to find somebody who's good at finding money and somebody who's good at managing money. Immediately, what we did was start to hire 2 new directors of the district, right? We have our finance and administration goddess, Susan Shelton, thank you. That is her official title. Who is there helping us plan financially and strategically for the future. We also hired a conservation program manager who has 15 years of experience working for districts and has garnered over $15 million in grant funding. Thank you, Karen Stralia. If you're not on the call, but I'm gonna give you a shout out anyway. Because we needed to turn around. We know we needed to hire staff. We know we have this workload, but we needed to invest in what happens when those grants we have today end. We know that we're on at least a 3-year funding cycle, right? But we have to apply for the grants today, and in 3 years, we're going to get that money and be able to spend it. So we need to plan far enough in the future that we have a sequence here. So we have this conversation often, right? About don't have too many technical or too many admin staff. We need to make sure you're having enough technical staff. And I agree with that. But in order to get there and to be sustainable, and to be able to fund those technical staff, we needed to lay that foundation, and we needed to make sure that we were going to continue to have the funding coming in the door to be able to do that. Okay. Knowing your strengths, tip 1. Tip 2, this one, be at the table. So one of the things in addition to increasing around yourself, right, as district managers, building around your own strengths. If you're really good at funding development, great, hire someone who's really good at communications and telling your story. Inverse. It's being at the table, showing up and seizing opportunities. And I understand that you need capacity to do this, right? You can only do what you can do with your 40, 50, or 60 hours a week each work. And you need to, you can't be at all of the tables, but the more tables you show up to, and I have to hand it to Zora because as a one-woman show, she is every table that is out there for, if someone could win an award who shows up every day, 100%, it's definitely Zora. But you have to show up to those tables. Money and opportunities are not necessarily going to find you, even if you're well known, right? Especially when you're trying to grow, you have to go find them. And in order to find them, you have to be there. You have to hear about them and you have to have those conversations with people. And like Zora said, you have to put yourself out there. So being at the table, an example with us, with our staffing increase is that we've strategically been able to place people right now at more tables. The more tables they're at, the more opportunities we have, the more funding that we can find, the more projects, more staff that we can get to be at different tables. Sort of our cycle that we continue to repeat. We're focusing on project development, focusing on collaboration. The more sophisticated, the more times we've done this, the further out and the more detailed we're able to plan too. These conversations have turned now into project lists, right? Shovel-ready projects. So when that opportunity walks in and, oh, there's money raining from the sky for riparian things, oh my goodness. We can pull out the project list, right? That we have spent time collaborating on with our partners and we can help you. We can, making that come. And my third sort of tip is to create a culture of reciprocity. This one is really particularly important to me and important to our district because of our recent history. Crashing and burning in flames meant we had to have a lot of help from all of you and a lot of people that aren't in the room and a lot of partners that aren't within districts. That came to our support, that came to our aid, that lended resources, that helped with grant writing, that shared their staff. Your VSP program is going to fail, great. I'll assign one of, thank you, Mike Norton. I'll assign one of my staff members to carry your entire VSP program for the next 6 months. I'll be there. And it's those relationships, and I get goosebumps every time I talk about it, right? It's those long-lasting relationships where I know if Mike ever calls, and he knows if he ever calls me, I'm going to drop whatever I'm doing and I'm going to be there, right? It's a reciprocal relationship building. And this is not just being there for other districts and other partners, but it also creates external advocates, right, of our districts. It creates these people, these other spokespeople, whether they're landowners in the community, or maybe they're elected officials, political leaders, or maybe they're even funders. Now you're able to say, what can I do for you? That's the point that we've begun in our district. The stage that we're at is now that we've been able to stabilize, now that we've been able to grow, now that we've been able to prove ourselves, my goodness, what can we do for you? What are the goals that you have and how can we weave them into our unique channel and our unique mission as a conservation district? A good example of that is it is much easier for us than many of our partners to apply for and administer grants. Being a fiscal agent isn't overly complicated for us. It does take capacity, it does take time, right? We have low overhead on a lot of things, but we can do it. And so by doing that, we do that for our Sentinel Landscape Partnership Program, which is a partnership with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and NRCS and the Department of Defense. By doing that, we're able to not only help bring in funding for ourselves, but we're helping now all of these other partners that are in the Sentinel Landscape Partnership make ends meet. We're helping those small nonprofits rise. We're helping partners find specific research and project money. And now all of them are coming back and saying, thanks so much for that opportunity to elevate and raise our boat. Can we write you into this grant to continue this work? So we wrote one grant, we had 6 partners. 6 partners came back and said, can we write this grant? Would you like to be a partner on it? Now we have 6 other grants that are bringing money in the door that we didn't write, that we're not administering. But it's that culture of reciprocity that we're putting ourselves out there to help someone else, and then they're coming back. And obviously it works 100%. With that, though, as a caution, there's a little bit of a disclaimer, right? This is the point that we're at, which is learning to say no is really important. Learning to say no so that you don't grow too fast, like Nora, or like Zora said, looking at Nora, talking about Zora, is really important. I really, I am definitely a district advocate. The take over the world, we can do everything is really important. And not letting your head get too big that you can't fit in the room or at the table anymore is also important and a hard one for me to learn. Making space for other partners and other people to do what they do well and letting them rise and be champions, letting them have center stage, letting them have the spotlight and some of these things. Don't sacrifice your core values like Zora mentioned. I'm just gonna echo your presentation the whole time. We're the folks that work with landowners. We're the trusted allies, right? We're the ones that do community outreach. Don't give that up. But making space for others to come to the fold where it's important and helping to recognize and realize that and make those connections has definitely served us well. Being that strong advocate and also knowing when to back off. Again, hard lesson to learn. And then being honest about your capacity. Really easy to say yes when the opportunities start rolling in. And then when you realize, okay, but we actually don't have enough people to do all of that work, and we don't quite have enough yet to hire. Those are some of the sticky challenges that we've been ironing out over the last year, I would say. So some of our most important milestones that we've hit, and a lot of this is some of the structural growth capacity, right? We got rates and charges for 1 year. We didn't have it in 2018, lost it entirely. That's when we lost a third of our budget. We got it for 1 year. Our county commissioner said, whoo, we do not trust you at all, but we'll give it to you for 1 year as a trial. And if you make it to the end of the year, you can come back. So we did that. And we used every drop of that funding as wisely as we could so that we could come back again the next year and still be here. And to pay for that process, right? Now we got to pay for that process again. That kept our doors open, that kept the ship afloat, that helped us make those critical staffing decisions, those new director positions, so that we could start writing grants, so that we could manage our projects and not fail, so we could demonstrate our effectiveness as an organization whose reputation was completely destroyed in our community, in our local. And so with that, it's smart growth, hiring enough administrative support, hiring enough communications support, so that you can support all of those great things. In 2020, we looked at longer term sustainability. I am going to speed up, don't worry. And we're almost done. And we got to start expanding. Now we have money to pay for technical staff. Again, we can do that. We came back, we got rates and charges. We asked for 5 years this time. We were awarded that. Our board took a really hard look at intentional recruitment. We had some midterm vacancies to fill. The board was very specific about what skills we needed on the board, what partnerships we wanted to increase, who we wanted to leverage, how could we bring other voices and perspectives into the fold. And they recruited very diligently. Our community rose up and said, who do we want to lead the conservation district, right? We were all in the newspaper from all of the drawings. So they said, we want to make something that we are proud of and is not on the front page for bad reasons. So our community rose up and said, who do we want to see at the conservation district? And very intentional leadership recruitment in our community, not my staff. Then we started looking at revamping internal organizations, processes. A lot of them had not been updated in the last 20, 25, 30 years, right? And we started to revamp that and change things and come into the fold. Yes, or a smart sheet revolutionary. If you haven't done it yet, just join. Just come into the fold. Let me stay here for one more second. Bringing us to 2021. Now we have some stable funding. Now we're able to manage our cash flow, right? Any of you that have rates and charges, you get lots of money and then you get nothing. And then you get lots of money again and then you get nothing. Now that we have the seed money, we're able to start savings. We're able to think about the future, right? Not just tomorrow and not just keeping people, please come stay work for us. Now we have a fund that we're saving money to develop and build a conservation and education center in our community with partners to bring resources to do research. Now we have a reserve fund so we can manage cash flow. So we have an emergency savings. So if we do have a misstep or a gap in our growth, we are able to recover from that and continue on the upward trajectory that you saw. We have finally rebuilt our reputation of excellence, of accountability, of sophistication in the work that we do. We've hired and continue to hire staff to run these great programs. We've focused on telling our own story. Did we get a good audit? We're going to blast that. We're going to share that. Yes, we did. We're an accountable organization. We launched a new podcast. Thank you, Fiona, conservationstarters.com. As our lovely host, we're finding new ways to connect with new populations to continue to tell a story about the great work we do. And with that, we're bringing in the voice of our landowners. And once again, reciprocity, we're bringing in the voice of our partners and our funders and our collaborators and our community to elevate the work that they do as well. If everyone is successful, we're going to be successful too. So because we built this foundation of community partnerships, we've demonstrated our success and garnered our support, we're starting to put that framework together here in 2022 with the infographic. To do that next big scale up, we are working on proposals for adding 4 new technical staff in the next couple of years. We're looking at building a building, we're looking at buying land, we're working with consultants, we're working at a scale that our district never ever has before. And I think that this intentional and strategic growth, while it has been kind of fast, I will say, has got us there. So we are at time. We're a little bit over time. We go to the last slide. It has my Phoenix on it. This is just a list of what's next for us. Again, long-term financial planning. How can we turn that 5-year rates and charges into 10? Increasing capacity. Again, I mentioned big proposals, lots of staff increase, making strategic decisions about growth. That's harkening back to saying no about things that we don't have time for, that don't really meet our mission. Building lasting community resources like our Conservation Education Center, like helping our ag community invest in regional agricultural infrastructure development. Think grain silos and meat processing. How can we use our unique superpowers as conservation districts? Yes, we have superpowers. It's fine. To elevate our community, to elevate our partners, and to elevate conservation work. And how can we continue to tell our story throughout this process so that people know? Okay, now it really is the last slide. There you go. Thank you. And we can stop screen share. We are at time, but I am gathering that Zora probably agrees with me that if anybody has any questions, we're happy to stay for a few minutes if anybody wants to chat more or wants to share really great ideas, because there's a couple of powerhouse people. There's a lot of powerhouse people in this room. And we're just 2 case studies. So yeah, thank you. Ask a question if you want, but don't, you can leave. It's okay. If you want.
It's only recess, that's the next session.
Reset,
Yes.
kickball.
No, it literally said recess.
I wanted to add while people are thinking about their questions that it's really important to pay your staff well. That's something I've really worked on us doing more of. Like we're trying to hire people with more experience and pay our staff as well as we possibly can, because hiring people who cost less, who have less experience is great, but it's not so great when you are trying to expand because we don't have time to teach people things. Our staff choices recently have been people with really great past experience, and it shows.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. We did a salary study as part of this. We signed our first and then our second collective bargaining agreement with our unionized staff. And we really made it created a dialogue between staff and our district about what kind of workplace do we want this to be, and how can we make sure that we're going to keep the amazing talent that we have so fortunately found here at Thurston CD, because that's the reason that we're growing. We've got a great staff team that's doing all the work to get us there, and we need to keep them and appreciate them and continue to attract top talent, right? To attract those people that can get us to where we want to be. I agree, Zora. That's a really excellent point.
A couple more bucks an hour or something in the long run is totally worth it. But you know, it's not easy either.
There's a question in the room.
I was just thinking something similar, that the salary set is coupled with the clarification of job descriptions, especially for those of us that have been there through the crash, when we all wear multiple hats, like your ability to create more sub-managers and more departmental features within our staff has been really, really helpful. As someone that was there before and is now thereafter, that made a huge difference. And it coupled with like having an improved evaluation process and stuff, so internal support for staff that way.
All of which was ideas that came from the staff, right? None of those were my idea. It was all listening to them and saying, what do you need to be successful?
Good question.
Yeah.
So, when both of you and anyone else in the room who wishes to share, when you went through this rapid expansion, how were you able to prioritize who you hired when? And what did the, like, taking on this new leadership role and managerial role look like for you? I know it's a big question. I have a lot of questions, so.
Perfect.
Start with that.
Zora, do you want to go first?
I think you were more strategic about it, so go for it.
Well, I don't know if this is strategic or not, but I went back to what am I not good at doing? What do I not like to do? Or what do I not have time to do, but still really needs to get done? And that's what helped me prioritize the work that we needed. I need somebody who's going to be writing grants, building programs, has a technical brain and can oversee our technical staff and be a support for them, much like Zora. A lot of our technical staff were new. We had a bunch of retiring that happened right before we lost a bunch of staff. So we had a bunch of folks that were coming in that still needed a lot of hand holding, and I have less expertise in the technical realm than they do. So how can I help be that great support? I can be a cheerleader. I can be like, yeah, let's go. You're doing great. But do I really know that? No, so I had to find where those gaps were. For me, that was those were the biggest gaps, is finding somebody who can help support internal operational management and budget development, not my skills, getting better. And find somebody who can do project and grant development, grant writing, and then be a mentor for our very new entry-level technical staff. Those were my two top priorities. Those two things I knew I couldn't do, at least not in that day, right? And so those were first things on our list. With that, as we developed new funding, some of that helped to detail. You're gonna do 37 workshops this year. Okay, well, we better hire another education and outreach person because one person can't do, you know what I mean? So some of that did dictate, but I really started with what can I not do? What are my skill gaps that I really need somebody, like Zora said, to hit the ground running today and take off my plate and run with very minimal oversight. Thank God for those 2 minutes.
We hired based on what money we had. The first hire after we just got to zero was I essentially replaced myself. I was a resource tech who was doing some education outreach, some farm planning, some riparian planning, some general admin stuff. So I hired somebody who became me. And now, of course, she's so much more. But at that point, it was just replacing me. And then, we hired a forester because we had a grant for a forester. Was that our top priority? No, but we had money for it. And when you only have, 1 or 2 staff people, there's not enough overhead to pay the bills. It doesn't matter if you have 2 staff, the rent is still the $1,500 a month or whatever it is. And then from that, we were able to kind of expand. I guess it was a livestock planner after that. And then we sort of started to deal with more of the admin-y things. But I know that people always harp on administrative. You don't want too much admin work, but I don't know how we are supposed to get all of the stuff done that we're expected to get done with with technical staff. Like, you have to have robust administrative people to support technical. You just have to.
Grant applications keep getting harder and lengthier. They have another 20 pages each year to the requirements. The administration is becoming a nightmare. One of the things that really helped me was my board wrote a new job description for me, and they said, these are the things we really want you to do. Things not on this list are not your job. You should probably not be doing them. And that's something that they try and keep me true to very often. And so really focusing on what are the things that I should not be spending my time doing, and then hiring a human to do those. So yes, I can do some of those things, but I shouldn't be doing those things. And so that role clarity, like Nora said, you know, for myself too, I think was really helpful. And our board was really integral in writing that description of what their expectations were. So I knew what they were, so I could be successful and keep my job. But it helped carve out everything else that's not on this list. You need to go find some people for. And I agree with Zora, that administrative support is critical to getting the dollars, getting the funding and managing it wisely, so that you can bring on more technical staff to do more projects. I know you've got some good gold in there.
Well, I think that, you know, to Alex's question, and especially if you kind of come up in the organization, maybe because you're the last one standing, or the, you know, an okay, you know, choice at the time to fill that seat. You know, you're often find yourself in a situation where you're wearing all the hats. Where you say that before, right? And so I think that a big part of that goes back to getting the people that you can rely on, and remembering to pass off the hat, take off the hat, and trust those people. Yeah, you need to know when, yes, you can help fill in a pinch, right? If there's a vacancy, oh, okay, I can help, but then remember, take that hat off again and give it to the right person, and make sure that you're relying and delegating and trusting those folks. And I can't reiterate enough the organizational structure. And I heard someone say it from Pierce. For us, that's the thing, the glue that made everything happen, was getting the right organizational structure with program leads in place that could focus on their expertise. They're the technical expert, or the education outreach expert, or the financial expert. And that was huge, is getting the right people to oversee those things, and then run those programs and letting them do what they do best. But stay connected, right? Don't allow yourself to get disconnected from the things that also, you know, recharge your batteries too. This type of work, any kind of expansion of organizational development, can be really energizing at times and totally draining at times. And I look to this broader community across the state for inspiration. I look, you know, I find people to be inspired by. I am constantly inspired, whether they know it or not, by Zora, Sarah, Alex. You've been an inspiration to me lately. Like, because otherwise, yeah, you can take care of yourself, and you can't always find that inspiration close to home. At home, there's a lot of needs. Like, there's a lot of people who need things from you. They're always going to see what the next need is, and there's a lot of things, more things that are wrong than right sometimes. But don't forget your broader family across the state who can help lift you up when you need it, you know, and share. And I love that what Sarah and Zora have done is they're not going it alone. They're asking for help, and they're sharing everything they've got. And that inspires us.
We have done that ask and steal a lot from Jennifer. I have
Yeah.
that. That's
A lot.
I think one of the things too that district managers fall into a trap of is we have to know everything that's happening at all times, and we have to be the expert in everything at all times. And I know I will never be there. Maybe some of you are. Some of you are great humans. It's not going to happen. So it's just being able to be okay and say, I'm really good at this, and this is what I'm going to do, and this is what my board wants me to do. And like Jennifer just said, find the experts in those other things, and then just help them do their job. Make sure that they have what they need, and then stay out of the way. Yeah, both Zora and I were sort of thrown in to this position with no experience whatsoever, no training. I think both of our predecessors left literally again overnight. And the next day we walked in the door and said, okay, let's figure this out. So lots of tenacity. Yeah.
I mean, you know, I don't, Denise was really good about, because we were a small district, smaller than Thurston. We had to spread some of it around. So I did a lot of the stuff or was at least exposed to a lot of the stuff that an employee in my position wouldn't normally have been, because there were only 3 of us. So I had a bit of a leg up, and I also, our previous district manager was, I mean, I still call her and I'm like, hey, what's the deal with this? And so she's been super helpful, but yeah, we very much were thrown into the deep end, both of us. And it's really hard to let go sometimes. And like I'm finding in what just hearing this conversation, our organizational structure right now at Clark, it's super flat. So I have 5 people that are reporting to me, which is less of a big deal when you have really experienced people, but we have new projects, new people. It's a lot. And I have to have my eyes and fingers on too many things, and it's not sustainable. And yeah, developing that organizational structure where I have 3 people that I am in charge of, and they're in charge of the rest of it. That's the next step.
Any other questions, comments, wisdom?
Reach out to your regional manager.
Yes, I don't know how many times I've just looked at
I
Jean during
know,
this, like.
they are a wealth of, they can like network and bring ideas from other, so reach out to your colleagues and your regional manager. Commission is such a huge support. It's going to building better. Yes, that's huge.
And the district manager meetings happening monthly.
And if you like my idea of like, we need to collaborate more, I don't know exactly how to get all that done, but like start talking about it, because I think if each district put in, some percentage of money voluntarily, don't have to do it at all. But, let's say we each put in $5,000 of our basic funding, which is more possible for some districts and less possible for others. I calculated that's $200 and something thousand. That's 2 staff people right there. Imagine what we could get done with that. And that's $5,000 from each district. And I'm just pulling that out of my butt. Like I have put no thought into this beyond this conversation, but I just think it would be incredible to have a resource that we could all call on when we needed, without the expense of a full-time employee that we have to all manage.
Any last wisdom from folks on the Zoom? Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.